Greetings, people of Earth. I am Orbital Bacon, and tonight, it's time for another LoreStream.
What's going on, guys? We're back to talk about Transformers again this week. How's everybody doing? Yeah, smash that like button. The Orticons to order.
The Notification Squad.
All right. Tailgate bug, what's going on? But yeah, tonight we're going to be talking about Transformers Animated. Continuing on in the continuity, we've covered the Unicron trilogy. Had a lot of fun talking about Cybertron last time. And so we'll be talking about animated this time, and a whole lot of stuff is going on, talking about continuity in general. You know, we just got the reveal over the weekend of the Siege trailer. I guess they're calling it Siege. I don't know. War for Cybertron, whatever. The Netflix show. So that'll be pretty interesting. And then I got a few things set up here. If you notice the down in the lower right corner, I now have Super Chat. So it's not the official YouTube Super Chat where it gives you the different colored messages in the chat box. It's more akin to Twitch, where I've got an animated GIF that actually pops up on the screen, and whatever text you entered for your message is displayed as well. So it's the little sound goes off and everything. So it's very, very akin to Twitch. So I've got that going on for anybody that wants to donate and have a message displayed on screen. And then, of course, tips are always appreciated as well. We are currently engaged in battle against BreakStream. That is the current goal. All tips and donations go towards defeating BreakStream, taking him down once and for all, so I don't have all the lag attacks and such during streams, especially when I'm trying to play videos, because I want to start doing more reaction videos for you guys, especially for people who put out stop motions and stuff. I've had a lot of people express interest in doing live reactions to their stop motions, especially with Angry Prime as my sidekick here.
I'm nobody's sidekick. I'm the star of the show.
But yeah, the live reviews would be pretty fun. But it's difficult to do that, so we're with BreakStream lurking around, so we're going to defeat him. But tonight, we are going to talk about Transformers Animated. Now that all that's out of the way, let me get the visuals on screen. Here we go. Animated was interesting because it had a very staunch departure from the aesthetic of the Unicron trilogy. Love it or hate it, the Unicron trilogy did have a fairly uniform look to it. Obviously, they had updated forms and character designs and modes and all that kind of stuff from Armada to Energon to Cybertron, because they're going to sell new toys each time the new show was coming on. But they all looked like they existed in the same universe, or at least a similar universe. You could easily have characters, figures, whatever, from any of the three shows and kind of mix and match them up, and they would blend pretty well together. It's kind of like taking some of the video game characters, like from the Fall of Cybertron and War for Cybertron, the figures that were released for them, and you can mix them in with some of the figures that were more IDW inspired. For a while there, we were getting a lot of IDW comic inspired, heavy inspiration anyway from those comics for designs of certain characters, and you could blend the video game characters in with them, things like that. So animated was a huge departure from the aesthetic that we had got from the Unicron trilogy, and it's something that actually threw me off as far as getting into it immediately. I was not an immediate fan of animated by any means. It took me a while to get into this show. I think I missed the entire first season before. It might have even been the third season, because I remember catching it by the time it ended, because the third season, especially for anyone who's seen it, will know the third season, the way it ends, you're wanting more at that point. And it's not necessarily a cliffhanger ending, and spoiler warning, but they kill off some characters like Blur. and and as well as introduce a lot of new stuff like the Elite Guard and everything, and go back to Cybertron, have some scenes that take place on Cybertron. We get to see some cool shots there. But yeah, it leaves you wanting more, and it was a bit of a bummer. And I know at one of the recent conventions, I think it was the recent Auto Assembly over in the UK, where they did a season 4, kind of like this is what would have happened in season 4, and some of the actors and stuff were involved and doing a script reading there, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, with animated, the weird art design. Well, I say weird. It's not weird that it's strange. It's weird that it was different from what we had been getting. Even Robots in Disguise kind of fit in. It was a nice bridge between Beast Wars and the Unicron trilogy, because it had some Beast Wars characters, although they were Transmetal designs. It still had Beast Wars characters, but then it introduced some new designs with like the Autobot brothers and Optimus and Ultra Magnus. They all had fresh new designs, so it was a nice bridge between those two. And then going into the Unicron trilogy, then we were almost kind of back to G1 in the sense of having full robotic stuff with very little animal influence, and everything was big and chunky. So this is like streamlined, kind of it gives me the vibe, especially looking at the poster that I have on screen here. The first thing I thought when I looked at it was like it was the DC animated universe. So anybody familiar with like the Batman animated series, the Superman animated series, Justice League, or Justice League Unlimited, I think is what they ended up calling it. Anybody familiar with those shows? That's what this looked like to me. It had this weird, streamlined, everybody had, or most of the characters had really thin legs. I know Bulkhead didn't, but but if you, at least at their thighs, I say thin legs, their thighs. Like if you look at this picture here, look at Optimus, even Ratchet there, who's kind of a tubby character, but he has thin thighs. Optimus has thin thighs. Bumblebee, Prowl, and then they would have almost like bell bottom type feet or shins. Hey, Mr. N Animations. Man, it's been a while. Yeah, I'm glad to see that you're back. I noticed, I'm actually, because I'm subbed to you, I noticed that you were active on your channel again, so that's cool to see.
Guess who's back? Yeah, back again. All right. This animated Optimus looks a little bit like me, but not quite me. I'm a little bit blockier, and I like it.
Yeah, I do prefer the blockier look, but the streamlined style here, it's not that it was bad or even necessarily ugly. It's just not what I would expect for robots. It works really well for those DC animated shows like Batman and Justice Leagues, like the ones I mentioned. It works really well for the characters to have big broad shoulders and then thin legs and be having all these dynamic poses. I mean, look at this picture here where Optimus's fist is, I guess, right towards the point of view of the camera, even though he's punching upwards, and it's kind of a head-on shot. But his fist is like huge because it's meant to be this angular design. But yeah, it works fine for DC. I actually really enjoy the DC animated universe, especially from that time period of Justice League Unlimited and Batman and all that. But this is just not what I would expect for robots, because they're typically really square or rectangular, blocky, boxy, whatever word you want to, cubic, whatever word you want to describe. I mean, and let me, if you don't mind, Angry Optimist, let me have you model for me here.
Do I gotta? Oh, times. Just a guinea pig.
But if you look at him here, because it is kind of reminiscent of the animated. I never really put that together when I first saw the designs for Cyberverse. It never really clicked with animated that much with me. But yeah, he does have a lot of similarities to the animated design, but they got rid of the roundness and everything's blocky again, and that's kind of how I prefer it. That's how robots should look to me.
Can I go now?
Yeah, get out of here, man. Grumpy. So yeah, it was weird, but once you give it a chance, especially when you get past that first season, there's a lot of similarities to Beast Wars, where in Beast Wars the first season was kind of standalone episode villain of the week, or well, not really villain of the week because it's always Megatron and the Predacons, but you know, it was like scheme of the week. That's a better description. It was like scheme of the week, standalone episodes. You could kind of jump in anywhere you wanted in the first season rather, and go from there. That was very much like this animated first season, with a few exceptions. You can kind of jump in anywhere. It's like scheme of the week. And much like Beast Wars, by the second and third season, they had this real overarching storyline going on, episodic, and you didn't really want to miss anything. You wanted to catch every episode, boom, 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 see what happened. And it got really, really good. So definitely give animated a chance if you haven't, but we'll talk a little bit more about it in detail. Let me catch up with the chat here. You got Lugnut, so I got to say some good stuff of Megs. Yeah, oh yeah, I mean Lugnut, Megatron. There's definitely a lot of good stuff about animated. I don't mean to knock it by any means. I just wanted to start out by the talking about the look of it, because that was the first thing that struck me when the show originally aired. It may have been the only show I had seen that actually had Cybertron not be a barren wasteland and was still actual thriving or mostly thriving society. So it had some of the out-of-box concepts, and that's a good point, Bug, and which I love. Some of my favorite parts of the show in the second and third season. I think it was towards the end of the second season, and I know there were parts in the third season that depicted scenes on Cybertron being very lively. Everybody was still there. Trax was there. He's like, oh, it's an organic. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I love that. That was one of the best parts about Transformers Animated, was Cybertron still being alive and well, showing what life was like on there. You know, the elite guard, all that kind of stuff. How Wasp, who was kind of like Waspinator, but he was also like Bumblebee's rival. His whole thing. I mean, there was a lot of cool stuff. Let's see, Mr. N. Guess who's back? Optimus. One question is ripping people's faces off your fantasy.
Ripping people's faces off is merely my job, and I'm the best in the world at what I do, and what I do is getting your face. Now give me your face.
So yeah, that's his job. So yeah, animators, the Terminator, animated was a little off-putting at first with the style, but once you give it a chance, it's really good. So let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about some of the characters, some of the storylines, the lore of animated, what made it, what ended up making it so good. Hey Spencer, welcome to the stream. One of your favorite parts in the show is when Sentinel Prime was just the head and then Optimus Prime laughed. Yeah, Sentinel Prime was a very annoying. Here, I've got a picture of him right here since we're going to talk about him. Sentinel Prime was like this really annoying character. He was like a know-it-all, egotistical, thought he was the best, thought others were beneath him. Especially Optimus and his team of Autobots. He really looked down on him, and as the audience, you just hate this guy. You can't, because he's looking down on your favorite characters, especially at the time that they introduced him. You had already gotten a chance to bond with these characters a little bit, so he's looking down on these characters that you love, and thinks he's the greatest. And not only does he think he's the greatest, he does not have the skill or the prowess to back it up. It's one thing for a character, and it's usually more of a villain character that thinks they're really powerful, because they are, and that's what makes them a threat, is that they are actually really powerful, really competent, and them just thinking it or knowing it just adds to that villainous attitude, having the ego. But when it's Sentinel Prime and he's not necessarily meant to be a villain, he's an antagonist. That's what I would really label him, is he's an antagonist. But he's not really a villain. But he has that same or that thing in common, I should say, with villains, where he thinks he's great, thinks he's the greatest, but unlike an actual threatening villain, he's not that competent. Not that he's a bumbling idiot, but he does not have the skills and talent that we normally would see from someone with the way he boasts. Which is a good thing, though, because you want to see him get his comeuppance at the end, and he does. He does eventually. There was a pretty cool connection they made in this show with another character, Alita 1. And they had, they touched on the relationship with her and Optimus. And they had this interesting development where she had turned into, and again, this is spoiler warning for anyone spoiler warning for anyone who may not have seen it or seen all of it. But Alita 1 ends up becoming Black Arachnia. Black Arachnia was originally introduced in this show as what I thought was just going to be a one-off character that we weren't going to see that much of her, and then she becomes this really integral part to the story, especially Optimus's backstory, which was really cool. Eldest says, did you know that the character Straxus was going to be in season 4? Yeah, see, that's the thing, is I'm so disappointed we didn't get a season 4. I was mentioning earlier in the stream that by the time I got into it, it was right at the end of season 3, and by then, or by the time I got caught up anyway with the show, season 3 had ended, and it's almost like a cliffhanger. You're wanting more. You want to see what happens from there. There's obviously more story that they wanted to tell, and we never got it. Oh, it drives me mad. But it was cool that at that convention that they released the script ideas, the plan, the outline basically for season 4, so we at least get some hint as to what would happen. I could make a whole nother stream about that, maybe get a guest or two on here to help me out, and we could do a script reading of that. I know they did a script reading at the convention itself, and I think it's been made available on YouTube. It may or may not have. I'm not sure. It might be one of those things where if you were there, you got to see it, and if not, oh well. But I know that the material itself has been made available, so that might be a fun thing to do. Lugnut. Hey, Lugnut himself is here, the grand and glorious Lugnut. And I know Megatron's supposed to be the grand and glorious one, but Lugnut was my favorite, low-key. He says no Autobot elite guardsman can defeat. Let me read this properly, Lugnut. No Autobot elite guardsman can defeat the glorious leader of the Decepticons. Megatron shall conquer all of Cybertron. Exactly. And I love how David K voiced Lugnut. He was voicing Optimus in this. They did a little flip here where normally David K voiced Megatron throughout Beast Wars and the Unicron trilogy, as well as 2001 Robots in Disguise. And then they bring him back to voice Optimus, and he did a great job. But I believe it was Corey Burton who was voicing Megatron, who was the G1 voice actor of Shockwave. And he did a great job as Megatron, but David K got to voice Lugnut, which is Megatron's #1 fan, so I'm fine with that. Lugnut was my favorite character from the show. Sentinel Prime is big fat loser. That's right, Alex K9. That's right.
I like this Alex K9 guy. We agree on that.
So,
the Fembug bot is not worthy to wear the sigil of the Decepticons.
That's right. She turned on him, didn't she? Much like in Beast Wars. I think she ended up having a change of heart. You defend my family or die. That's right. Spencer says, one time when I saw Black Arachnia, spoiler alert, shedding tears, it looked like that she had feelings for Optimus. Exactly. See, I really liked how they developed her character. It not only was a nice callback to G1 with the relationship between Alita 1's prototype form before she was Alita 1, Ariel, I think her name was, and Orion Pax. So that was nice. And then, of course, tying in Black Arachnia, a Beast Wars character who didn't have that origin in Beast Wars anyway. Originally, she didn't have that. But it was really cool. I loved how they did that. Let me see. I think since we've been talking about them, I've got Megatron and Lugnut, but let me get Lugnut up there because he's just the best. Lugnut's the absolute best boy. Who in the chat agrees that Lugnut is best boy? Put a ones up for Lugnut. Anyway, Mr. N says his brother sent me a pic of Optimus called Optimus Lime. Nice. Animated, such an inspiration to us all. That's right, Bug. Lugnut was the original One Punch Man. Let's all just get that straight. Before One Punch Man, before Saitama, there was Lugnut, the original One Punch Bot. Let's all get it right. No confusion here.
You can't see it, but I'm putting a 1 up too. Lugnut's awesome, not gonna lie.
Hell yeah. Lugnut's getting a lot of ones. He's very popular. So this show was cool, though, the way that it depicted the Autobots being kind of younger. It was almost like a ragtag group of Autobots rather than Optimus being this very... I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not that he didn't have confidence and wasn't a great leader in this show, but he wasn't like the Transformers Prime, old and wise... I know everything that we need to do as soon as something happens, and I'm going to tell you what to do with an epic speech. It wasn't really like that. It was, like I said, David Kaye voiced him, and it was a younger version of Optimus, and he was confident in his beliefs. Like, he had a lot of integrity, and he knew what was right and what he needed to do for the good of his team, but he didn't have those, epic speeches as if they were just in a Rolodex, like he's just got a little pocket full of cards. Like, all right, which speech am I gonna use today? No, it was much more like from the heart, figuring things out as it went on. I mean, the first episode, it was like a 5-part, 3-part maybe? Yeah, 3-part pilot, where Optimus and his Autobots, they're just now getting the Allspark. That's another thing too, is Optimus doesn't already have, the Matrix or the Allspark as they're calling it. Something I will have to say, a quick side note here about this show, is that it took place in or was released, aired, whatever, in 2007, 2008. This was right when the first live action movie, the first Bayverse movie, was out. So this show was kind of like the companion show to it, but because they were both being developed at the same time is why we still get a lot of G1 looking bots and characters and a lot of G1 references and voices and stuff, because the Bayverse hadn't quite taken over. This is why Bumblebee can still talk in this show, because they were still developing it at the time of the movie, but certain things still get called what they were called in the movie, because they already knew like what certain things, like the Matrix, for instance, ended up being called the Allspark. Although the Allspark's kind of different from the Matrix, but I don't know, it's weird because in this show they treat the Allspark, as they call it, more like the Matrix. I don't know, it gets a little bit confusing, but that is a side note to keep in mind, that this show did air right when the Bayverse was kicking off. And so this is kind of the last time for a while that we get a talking Bumblebee, and that we get Optimus Prime with no flames on him, looking like Optimus Prime. So it was cool though. I mean, it was, like I said, once you get past that art design, if it throws you off, it may appeal to you, which if it does, awesome, all the better. It makes it easier for you to get into the show. But for me, the art style threw me off a little bit, looking like DC animated universe, Justice League Unlimited stuff. But once you get past that, it's really, really good. But yeah, it starts out with this 3-part pilot. You get Optimus and his little ragtag group of Autobots trying to get the Allspark, and all they know is that it's a powerful Cybertronian artifact, and they're trying to keep it from the Decepticons. And Megatron in this is far more competent than his G1 counterpart, and you could actually argue, with the exception of Beast Wars, especially second and third season Beast Wars, because Megatron was pretty goofy in the first season of Beast Wars with the rubber duck and everything. But later on, once he got his transmetal forms, and especially by the third season when he was the big dragon, he was pretty damn competent. Like, he posed a pretty big threat and was about to undo all of time and history, at least up to a certain point. But this Megatron is far more competent, far more threatening than all the other ones. Like I said, aside from Beast Wars. But when you look at like the recent ones from the Unicron trilogy, from Robots in Disguise, and then even if you go back to G1, as cool as G1 Megatron is, he had some goofy moments, you know. And this Megatron, let me pull him up on screen here, because I did have a visual here for you. This he looks badass. He looks threatening. And he was more competent than most. And so the way they balance that out is he spent the entire first season as just a disembodied head. At the end of this Cybertronian battle, when he's chasing the Autobots to Earth, he suffers a good bit of damage and ends up dismantled. And this is where we get the human characters, which is Isaac Sundak, and I know I'm gonna murder the pronunciation of their names because I haven't seen it, but it was Sari. I know Sari was the either his daughter or his granddaughter, and she's the one who befriends the Autobots and is kind of like the human avatar for the audience, you know, because the thing about the Transformers series is they always believe, I mean, even back in G1, that's why we had Spike hanging out with Bumblebee, is because they've always thought that the human audience, like as if there was any other audience, that we as the audience need a human avatar in the show to be able to quote unquote relate with what's going on. And I don't agree with that. I think you can relate with personalities, with character traits. So if you have a goofy, happy-go-lucky character that's telling a lot of jokes, you might relate with that. If you've got a character who's afraid of spiders or something, you know, you might relate with that. And they don't have to be human. They can be robots, they can be aliens, whatever. It's more about the personality traits, the character traits. I think that's what you can relate with. But unfortunately, they've always thought that we need a human character. But I will say, that being said, Sari Sundak is not annoying at all. There have been way worse human characters, sidekick characters, audience avatars, whatever you want to refer to them as, that we've had worse. We've had way worse. I thought she was pretty interesting, and not only was she not annoying, because I mean that's just kind of like saying, all right, so there was no negative about her. There was actually some positive things about her, because she wasn't just a human avatar for the audience. And again, I don't think I've ever used the spoiler warning this much, but spoiler warning, we come to find out that she has Cybertronian elements within her. Something very interesting. But before I get too far off of Megatron, I did want to say that Megatron was more of a threat, more of a competent villain in this show. So they kind of handicap his physical abilities by making him just this disembodied head, and that kind of balances his threat level to his competence. Because otherwise, at the start of the show, because you know the heroes have to kind of work their way up, you know, they've got to learn their lessons and band together. And if Megatron just started out, boom, this badass, powerful, competent villain, he probably would have taken him out. So I thought that was a good way, other than just having him lost somewhere back on Cybertron, or you know, the ship is out of fuel, or the batteries are dying, and every time they think they're gonna start the ship up at the end of the episode, it doesn't work because their scheme falls through. You know, it was something that's been done before. Like, that's like Power Rangers type stuff. So it was cool that they actually came up with a really interesting thing, because Professor Sumdak, he didn't know that Megatron was evil at first, and so he just thought he was this alien that was damaged and needed help, and he was going to repair him, and he was getting all this technology from him that he was using to benefit him at the time, thinking that he was, you know, working with him and the whole time Megatron was just playing him, and just wanted to get his body reassembled and back online. It was actually very clever, very brilliant. I mean, Megatron, like I said, he's shown to be very competent in this, and he's a pretty brilliant tactician. Let me catch up with the chat real quick. Landis Wilbank says Lugnut fused with Blitzwing is the ultimate fan body, right? Mr. N, I can't tell who's got the best Optimus Prime voice, you, Peter Cullen, or John Bailey. Well, of course it's going to go to Peter Cullen. Peter Cullen's number one. I mean, John Bailey, he was out there before me. I don't know. I think at that point it's a matter of preference. Like if he sounds better to you, cool. If I sound better to you, cool. But I would never compete with Peter Cullen. He gets the automatic win. He's got the golden ticket, right? Lugnut says the Axebot turned the Allspark into the Matrix at the end of our battle. Yeah, see, it's been a while since I've seen animated, which is why I wanted to go through some of the lore here. Right now, I'm just going off of memory. But yeah, animated Megatron.
And I also liked his voice. He had a very threatening voice by Corey Burton, who was the original voice of G1 Shockwave. And I believe he reprised his role as Shockwave when he showed up, when he was revealed to be Longarm later on in the show. But Megatron had one of the greatest voices, aside from G1 Megatron, that has probably ever existed. Nothing against David K., but that Beast Wars Megatron is technically a different one.
Yeah, animated Megatron has a lot of good points about him. Awesome design. He was a competent, threatening villain. Cool voice. He had a cool plan as far as getting back to his body back together. The way he was tricking Professor Sundak. So yeah, Megatron was really cool in this show. And then and Megatron talking about him just gives me an excuse to talk about Lugnut again, because Lugnut was like his number one guy. And I'll take any excuse to talk about Lugnut. Spencer says, sorry was his adopted daughter. Getting tongue-tied. Lugnut says sorry was his adopted daughter. Spencer says sorry was half Cybertronian, which was, I did put up a spoiler for that, and that's correct. She was had Cybertronian elements and ended up getting this like upgraded form and could somewhat hold her own in a fight. I mean, obviously she was learning to use her powers and stuff, but it was really cool, something different, something we hadn't seen before, and I welcomed it. I thought it was great, especially when you don't see it coming, because you could watch, if you stopped watching after the first season, you would have never known. And they didn't, I don't want to say that they had it show up out of nowhere, like they just pull it out of their ass, but they didn't sow any obvious seeds where you knew, like, oh, okay, this is obviously going to happen. Now, Explicit brings up something interesting in the chat here. He's asking if animated canon. I believe that animated took place in a separate timeline. So it's very much like, Marvel Comics, especially with what they've been doing recently in the movies with the multiverse. But if you're familiar with their comics, the way that they have timelines in the Marvel Comics is every timeline, every time something splits off, it basically creates another universe. So you could kind of look at it as like another universe or another dimension. It's really all the same, I guess, in the end. Falls under the same umbrella of like being a separate timeline that doesn't necessarily affect G1. But I like how that they've brought characters recently into the aligned continuity. I mean, we're talking about continuity, we're talking about lore right now, so this is a good time to talk about it. I think that's like an excellent question. Explicit is that with things like animated, things like Beast Wars, the Robots in Disguise, the Unicron trilogy, all that stuff, most of it, Beast Wars I think is the only one that you could argue is canon, since it was taking place in actual time periods, like prehistoric time periods, but the characters themselves came from way in the future. So the characters themselves, to go on a short little Beast Wars rant here, the characters from Beast Wars were from way in the future. they were descendants of Autobots and Decepticons, but they had gone through a wormhole that sent them back in time millions of years in the past to when the Autobots and Decepticons were still dormant during that crash on Earth. If you remember the beginning of G1, when the Autobots and the Decepticons they crashed on Earth and were dormant for like, what was it, like 5 million years or something like that. So Beast Wars tried to purposely tie in with G1, so that's the only one that you could really argue is canon. The Unicron trilogy is specifically an alternate universe. I mean, even within those 3 series, especially Cybertron, it's hard for them to even be in the same universe as themselves. They almost each 3 exist. Energon and Armada continue pretty well, but Cybertron, it's loosely affiliated, but they're off in their own universe. They're not connected to G1. And so that's kind of how I look at Animated. Animated has a lot of similarities to G1, but it kind of does its own thing because we go so far back to, and not as far back as Beast Wars went, but we go far back enough to where Optimus was younger. This is definitely a younger depiction of Optimus Prime in this show. And I think it kind of diverges the timeline. So where G1 went in one direction, or the G1 timeline, what would end up becoming the aligned continuity, which I think has incorporated G1, Beast Wars. It's not everything that was in G1, because the games and Transformers Prime kind of retold a little bit of it, and I think they've adapted a lot of those to be parts of the aligned continuity, such as the origin of the Dinobots. But if you take the aligned continuity, which is mostly G1, Beast Wars, the High Moon games, and Transformers Prime, and once you had everything in that cluster, the comics and everything going forward has all been kind of the aligned continuity. So your branching continuities are going to be things like Animated, the Unicron trilogy, some of the older comics like the IDW Dreamwaves, some of the stuff like that. Even probably at this point, probably the older G1 comics are going to be a separate continuity because they got really weird too. And when they try to do the aligned continuity, bringing everything together, melding everything together, it probably messed up some of the stuff that would work with that. And again, this is all me just speculating. I'm not trying to say this is like the gospel of Transformers. I mean, this is like headcanon almost, you know what I'm saying? But like, it's based on what is in each show. It's an educated hypothesis here at best. But so to answer, Animated is not canon to the aligned continuity, and the Animated timeline is its own continuity, but characters from it have been brought into the aligned continuity, such as Lugnut. But like just like how if you've played Transformers Earth Wars, they kind of do little jokes. They'll have Armada Megatron, the classic G1 Megatron, and Beast Wars Megatron are all in that game, and when you unlock them, they actually have dialogue where they kind of, other characters even have dialogue, like Waspinator and Dinobot, where they mention like, what, there's 3 Megatrons here, like what? So they're definitely different continuities. I think based on that's what I would say. Let's see, let me scroll up because I probably missed some stuff. Okay, no, I didn't miss too much here. All right, so Spencer says, Lugnut, my loyalties lie with the Autobots, but Megatron was nothing more than a war tyrant.
And the universe will rejoice. Oh, hail your grand and glorious return.
And here's another great thing about Transformers Animated was Starscream being voiced by SpongeBob. Can't go wrong there. It's not a glitch. That's right. Bug says we also talk about how Soundwave was essentially Skynet and Ultron. Yeah, that's right. Soundwave was this was probably the first time we see Soundwave in that role. I mean, he's always been listed as a communications officer. I didn't get a picture of Soundwave yet. Soundwave has always been listed as a communications officer amongst the Decepticons, and by now most people are probably used to seeing Soundwave as like this Skynet hacker type character because of his depiction in Transformers Prime, as well as Revenge of the Fallen. But at this time, this was kind of the first we'd seen of that. This was before Transformers Prime. This was before Revenge of the Fallen. And I think in was it Robots in Disguise 2015? I'm pretty sure the 2015 Robots in Disguise had hacker Soundwave with his hacking tentacles, and I wouldn't be surprised if Cyberverse did it. I haven't watched all of Cyberverse, especially the parts with Soundwave yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did it in there as well. But yeah, this was kind of the first introduction we get to Skynet Ultron Soundwave, which was cool. And what he would do is it wasn't on quite grand a scale as we would see in later iterations. It was more him taking over electronics in his general vicinity. And it was a little bit reminiscent of like Ninja Turtles or something, where the electronic devices would kind of like come alive. I don't know if they full on became like little Transformers, like when I think this was also in Revenge of the Fallen, when the shard of the cube got dropped in Sam's kitchen and made all the appliances start transforming, like the blender was running around, turned into a little robot and stuff. So I don't know if it did that, or if it was, like I said, it kind of stands out in my mind as almost being like Ninja Turtles, where the appliances were just hopping around like they were alive. But later on, Soundwave in one of the later seasons actually traps all of the, well, not all, but a group of the Autobots in like a virtual world, like the Matrix that he's crafted for them. And they have human forms, which is again another throwback to G1, and it was really interesting. Hey, Chaos Storm, welcome to the stream. There might be a possibility that the animated universe might have been destroyed because animated Cyclonus talked a lot about the end universe, henceforth why he went back in time. Oh, see, that's interesting. And I think that it would be better if animated was in fact a separate universe or separate timeline, because then you could do things like that, like either visit it through wormholes, time travel, something like that, or you could have things like what you just mentioned with Cyclonus, where characters, if the world got destroyed somehow, if it ended somehow, characters that were seeking refuge in another timeline, in another dimension, can show up, and it gives them an interesting backstory. So yeah, I think that would be better served for the plot of anyone as a separate universe, and it works better. It fits that way. It works that way. And again, when you have different versions of characters, like this Megatron, this version of Megatron could theoretically meet another version of Megatron. So I don't know, that would be interesting. That would be interesting. Don't forget about Spidor. Yeah, the Meeker Seekers. Exactly. Tom Kenny. Yeah, he was the voice of SpongeBob, and he voiced Starscream, which is very impressive. His range is impressive, though. He does a lot of voices within the SpongeBob show, but just that he can go from that to Starscream. And then Starscream's many personalities. We got to see Starscream split up into Thundercracker and Skywarp and Ramjet. It was, I mean, I don't know if they called them that by name, but it was the colorations of those characters. And then we got Slipstream, and I believe this was the introduction of Slipstream. I'm pretty sure, because I know that this predated War for Cybertron, which was the only other time I had seen Slipstream back in the day. I know she's a little more common now because more people know about her, but War for Cybertron, she was like a DLC character, and I remember being pretty hyped for that because I had seen her in animated, and that was pretty much it. So I think animated was where Slipstream was introduced, and now she's a canon character, or at least an official character. I don't know if she's been brought into the aligned continuity, but she's an official Transformers character now. Well, obviously she was when she was in the show, but not just a gimmick as being part of Starscream's personality. Like she's her own character now, is what I'm trying to say. You could almost compare her to Harley Quinn, the way that Batman the Animated Series introduced Harley Quinn, and then Transformers Animated introduced Slipstream. So Slipstream is the Harley Quinn. Somebody photoshopped that. I should have. If I had thought about that before the stream, I would have photoshopped that and had that ready. Somebody photoshopped that. Slipstream with Harley Quinn colors. You know, the black and red crisscross pattern, like checkerboard pattern. Yeah, somebody do that. That'll be great. Yeah, Shattered Glass Megatron. Yeah, see, Shattered Glass, that's another dimension or another world, timeline, whatever you want to call it, another reality. So yeah, I like that there are different timelines, different realities. As much as I enjoy the aligned continuity, and I see why they did it, and I like the ones that they chose because the High Moon games, Transformers Prime, G1, all of the Beast Wars, if that's in there, all of that matches up pretty well. It doesn't conflict too much. You know, there's going to be a little conflictions here and there, but as far as retcons go, nothing too bad there. But yeah, I like having the separate continuities. So with Transformers Animated, I get we got like real far off on this continuity discussion, but this is what lore streams are all about. This is what lore streams are all about. But we have been touching on a lot of characters. Actually, we got to talk about Soundwave, who started out as Sari's toy robot. He was just this little musical robot. He would take over other machines. Like I said, he could kind of control their machines. And he grows from there, and he becomes a full-blown Decepticon and ends up trapping Autobots in like his own version of the Matrix, which is pretty cool. And we actually get a version of Sound Blaster. It's like he gets the black and red repaint, and it's like the Sound Blaster mode, and I think that's what he appears in the Matrix world as. So that was pretty cool. Prowl. I want to talk about Prowl in here. In this picture here, Jazz is the one breaking up Sentinel and Optimus right there, but Prowl, you could almost see him trying to stop a fight, because in this show his was probably one of the most changed characters. Optimus, it's like, yeah, he was younger, less experienced, maybe not as wise as his previous depictions, but he's still heroic, he's still noble, he still is a good guy, right? Ratchet, grumpy old mechanic. Bulkhead, big, clumsy, big heart, but he's a big klutz. Bumblebee, young, energetic. Everyone is pretty much the same as they have been. But Prowl, who has always been this straight-laced, because he turned into a police car, so he was this straight-laced, by the books, no nonsense, very little personality, especially in the older cartoons, and almost a bit of an asshole in the comics. That's probably an understatement, actually. I'm probably putting it lightly. But in this show, he was like this martial artist. Like he was still by the books and everything, but not in a cop type of way. It was more like code of honor type of way. And he studied this Cybertronian martial arts. Let me see if I can find it. Somebody in the chat will probably know the name of it before I can either recall it or find it here. But he studied under a master that oh man, what was his master's name? I know he was voiced by George Takei, but I can't remember his name. But anyway, he was like this martial arts character. He had this code of honor. It was really cool, completely different than any time we had seen Prowl up to this point. He was almost like Beachcomber a little bit, but not quite as like hippie. Beachcomber was kind of a big hippie, and Prowl wasn't that much, but very cool character. Probably the most changed, as I said, probably the most changed from his G1 counterpart or any other iteration that we had seen up to this point. I'm still trying to look for the name of his fighting style. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing it here. Let's see if somebody in the chat knows it. Yokitron. Yeah, Yokitron. That's right. He was like a ninja bot. That's right. Thank you. Metal was Metal Metallicodo, something like that. But yeah, it was like Ninja Mastery. It was really cool. It was really different. This was before also. I sound like a hipster, like, oh, animated was before all this stuff. It was before Soundwave could hack into anything. No, this was the first show where I'd seen a lot of this done. Because now, Drift is really popular, and he's kind of like the resident samurai bot or whatever. But and Cyclonus too, especially in the comics, is kind of like your resident code of honor character. But this was the first place I remember seeing it done, at least to this extent. Like I said, he kind of reminds me of Beachcomber, but Beachcomber was more of a hippie. Meltaldecado. Meltaldecado. Yokitron, yeah. Or Yokaitron or something like that. But yeah, there's so much to explore. I think this is one of the many reasons. Obviously there's a lot of reasons, but this is one of the many reasons why people really wanted that fourth season and wanted to explore more of the world of Transformers Animated, because they did a lot of really interesting things. Having Elita 1 become Black Arachnia, Prowl and this Cybertronian martial arts, the younger Optimus, the more sinister Megatron. Oh, and another thing that was interesting about this one is some of the alliances, like the Constructicons weren't immediately aligned with the Decepticons. They originally found one of them hanging out with one of the Dinobots, and this was where they changed Slag's name to Slug, because it was I think it was something to do with it being like an offensive word in the UK or something like that. Either that or copyright of nods to G1s. I mean, I've been going over kind of just stuff about the general lore, the characters, the differences, things like that. But Cybertron was not a dead planet, and because of that, they were able to do more world building instead of just, okay, these characters are stuck here on Earth and they want to get back to Cybertron any way they can, and they got to get resources together, and the show is basically just going to be about getting resources back together for a journey back to Cybertron, or to revive Cybertron. It wasn't like that. It was Cybertron's already fine, is already there, and there was a lot of world building with the elite guard that they had there, with the view that Cybertronians had of organics. I mean, Trax is an Autobot, he's one of the good guys, but when he sees humans, he goes, "Oh, it's an organic," and he's like disgusted by them. He thinks that they're gonna get infected or something by the humans. So it's very interesting. There was a lot of stuff that could have been expanded in the fourth season, and it's a shame that we never got it. Especially with the G1 Easter eggs and Beast Wars, and basically any show, well, especially the popular ones like G1 and Beast Wars, but there were a lot of throwbacks throughout these 3 seasons. I can only imagine what they would have snuck in the 4th season there for the watchful fan. I mean, they even some of the episode titles, like I'm looking through the episode titles here. One of them was called The 5 Servos of Doom, and that's a reference to the G1 5 Faces of Doom. And they had a lot of old writers like Larry DiTio that worked on Lynn Yulee. Yeah, they had a lot of classic writers on here that worked on the old shows. So Marty Eisenberg, wow. So yeah, this was worth checking out if you haven't already, or if the art style threw you off a bit and you think, doesn't look that good. It's really good. It's very, very good. Hopefully I didn't spoil everything for you. Let me catch up on the chat here. Yeah, look, my pain. Chaos Storm says Bludgeon was originally going to be in there, but as a pirate instead of a samurai, dude, Chaos Storm, pirate bludgeon, are you serious? I would have loved that, especially if he still had the skull face, but just like a pirate motif with the skull and everything. Oh, and a pirate hat, a robot pirate hat. Because I know that they've had pirate type characters in the extended universe, like comics and stuff, but have we ever had pirate characters in any of the shows? Maybe like an Energon or something. There was probably like a pirate character in one of the Unicron trilogy shows because there were like 500 characters in each season, but I want a pirate transformer.
Give me a pirate hat right now. Photoshop it on my head if you have to. The next time you guys see me, I'm gonna be sporting a pirate hat. Yar!
He's getting it ready. He's getting the pirate hat ready. Man, that would have been amazing, Chaos Storm. Okay, so I've got homework for myself or anybody else. Anybody, in fact, well, let's all. This is homework for everybody, okay? Or anybody who wants. It's optional. Anybody who wants to participate, but I'm gonna do it. So if you wanna, do what I'm doing, the homework assignment is some Photoshop. I don't care how good it is. You don't have to be a master at Photoshop. You don't even have to use Photoshop. Even if you do it in Microsoft Paint, I don't care. But photo edit me a picture of Slipstream as Harley Quinn or in Harley Quinn colors. And pirate, well, it doesn't have to be pirate Optimus Prime. It can be pirate anybody. Pirate Bludgeon. Bonus points if you actually do Bludgeon, since he was supposedly going to be the pirate character here. But whoever your favorite character is, make them a pirate. The more pirate, the better. I mean, if you just put a pirate hat on him, okay, you might get like 1 or 2 points. But I'm going to give you like 50 points if you go full on peg leg, beard, parrot on the shoulder, go all out. So the next stream, I'm going to review fan art. This is what we're going to do the next time before we even start. Tuesday Transformer stream. I've been trying to get every Tuesday a Transformer stream. I missed a couple of Tuesdays. Started out this year doing Tuesday Transformers. Then I missed a few. But now I'm back. In the past couple Tuesdays, we've been doing Transformers streams. So there'll be another one next Tuesday. And this is what I want to see is photo edits, photoshops of Harley Quinn Slipstream and your favorite pirate Transformer. And we'll review them at the start of the next stream, complete with pirate voice Optimus.
Yar, I be ready for some photo edits. I got me voice all ready to go.
I'm hyped. I don't know who else is, but I'm hyped. Spencer, if you were banned on Discord, I will unban you. I don't know what happened there, but we'll take care of that. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the stream here because everything else that we would talk about would be just little details that would get into a lot of spoilers that I haven't already spoiled. And I want you to check out Transformers Animated if you haven't already. It seems like a lot of people are already fans of the show. Of course, we got Lugnut himself in here, the grand and glorious. So I appreciate everyone hanging out. Lugnut, Tailgate, Spencer, Bug, Chaos Storm. Let's see. Explicit. Don't know if I'm forgetting anybody, but appreciate everybody hanging out. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this stream and you want to see more. Low key, you were expecting Prime to have a pirate hat immediately. I wish I was that good. If I had a pirate hat on standby, I'd probably make it happen. I wish I was that good. See, I need to get better, man. That's what the tips and donations. Anytime you guys want to do tips, I got a link to Super Chat now, so you can have your message appear on screen with a little animated GIF, just like on Twitch. We're going the whole 9 yards. So donations are always appreciated because that's going to go towards defeating Breakstream and having better equipment so I can make stuff like that happen. Instant pirate hats. Just imagine it. Instant pirate hats for everybody. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the stream so I know that you enjoyed it, and I will do more like it. Tomorrow is Wednesday, so we're going to do a Wrestling Wednesday recap for Raw and SmackDown. For any wrestling fans out there, join me tomorrow night, and I'll be going over those shows in half the time that it would take you to actually watch them. So I appreciate everybody. And that's right. Oh, yes. And before I also end the stream, let me plug the Discord as well. If you're not already a member of Discord, join my Discord and we'll continue the discussion in between streams. We talk about all sorts of craziness on there. Share pictures of our collections and photo edits and all sorts of zaniness. And the let's see, is there anything else to plug? I think I got it. Like button, subscribe button, Discord button, button. Who's got the button?
Pirate hat button. Oh, wait, I've already forgot the one. Yar, I got me pirate button. Next time I'm gonna have a hat on, that's for sure. And a better accent. That one is shit.
All right, thanks, guys. Y'all have a good night.
Till next time, this is Orbital Bacon, signing off.